This is very exciting because I have Tess Michaels here, and you are what's your official title?
I'm founder and CEO of Stride Funding.
Okay, so both founder and that's what I was like, I wasn't sure if either one. Okay. So I'm really excited to just learn more from your perspective and definitely about the background of how Stride Funding got started and how it can specifically benefit PAs and PA students. So, all right, well, give us a little introduction and background on kind of you, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Yes. So again, thanks so much for having me, Savannah. I'm Tess Michaels, founder of Stride, which we'll go into this, but Stride is a student-centric platform that offers a much more flexible and affordable alternative to traditional loans. I actually founded Stride as a graduate student years ago, thinking about my own financing options and realizing once you add books and housing and tuition, you realize just how quickly it becomes really expensive. My background has really been between startups and finance, but I was actually a biology major back in college. But to the disappointment of my parents, didn't stick with the amazing path that I think so many of your viewers are in, focusing on PA school. So that's the
Nice.
quick.
Well, you know our pain then, at least a little bit. So, um,
That much more respect for people who get through all of it.
yeah, I would if I was a bio major and if I went back, I get this question a lot and did it again, I wouldn't be. And that's what's interesting. I would have probably done something like PR or management
Yeah.
and just I would have still taken the classes for PA school, but
Yeah.
the whole major was just not necessary. So, yeah, I kind of wish I did something different. Okay, so give us like your educational resume breakdown.
Yeah, totally. On a personal note, I began my career actually working on another impact startup. It was basically a company that helped, manage analytics for corporate philanthropy and corporate volunteerism programs. So really, again, how do we, make the world a better place and use analytics for that? Then I worked in finance, helping, invest in fintech companies. Financial technology companies. Really enjoyed that, but I just missed working, on something I was just crazy about and really passionate about. And so, I then transitioned to founding Stride, as I mentioned, starting out as a graduate student, seeing the pain point of education funding, firsthand. And, I decided to really focus on helping healthcare professionals, given my own personal experience. So my family is almost entirely healthcare professionals. Mom's a doctor. Both my grandparents, my sister, just about everyone I know has pursued careers in healthcare. And so I just have so much appreciation and really wanted to spend my time helping those exact people. So,
Okay, cool. So, what year was this kind of instated?
yeah, so we founded Stride back in 2018.
Okay, so it's pretty new.
So it's pretty new. It's early days. That's the fun of a startup, and it's been a total whirlwind since. So yeah.
That's exciting. Okay. So let's get into kind of like the nitty gritty of what is Stride Funding? What does it offer? Kind of break that down for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Stride is essentially a student financing company. So we really help students think through finding much more flexible and affordable ways to pay for school. And the way we do this is an innovative spin on a traditional loan. So with a traditional loan, students have to, look at paying principal and interest. And while they're in school, it'll accrue costs. With an income share agreement, which is what Stride offers, it's meant to be really simple. It's just a fixed percentage of income, usually single digit, so think 5, 6% of income over a set number of years, let's say 5 years. So it's way shorter than a traditional loan as well. So that's really the core thesis was how to make sure students had a product that really aligned the cost of their education with the value of their education. Everything is outcomes based.
Okay, cool. So we can get into like a little bit more specifics on that too, but who exactly would you say can benefit the most from stride funding? And I think when I've done some posts, some of the questions I've gotten are like, can this fund undergraduate education? Is
Oh,
it just for grad school? Like who is this the best for?
absolutely. So we fund both undergraduate and graduate students, but it's all students within 2 years of graduation. Most of our students, I'd say about 80 to 85% of our students are healthcare students. So mostly nurses, physicians assistants. The nurses range from BSNs, MSNs, DNPs, and nurse practitioners to, and then a ton of PAs. That's really where we started. That was our first cohort of students, and so I would say the best user of a stride income share agreement are folks who think they're going to go into very stable careers. And I think the benefit of being in healthcare is taking advantage of a lot of the career resources that we've built in that are really tailored to those professions.
Okay. So how does someone get started with this? Like, what does that process look like? And
Totally.
at what point, I guess, like, if I'm thinking back to when I was, trying to figure all this out, like,
Yeah.
at what point do you decide this or make that commitment? Because it's like
Yeah.
you get into PA school and then they kind of go, oh, this is how much your tuition's going to be. Just go apply for loans. And
Yeah.
there's not a ton of direction. Like,
Yeah.
you fill out
Yeah.
FAFSA, you just talk to your classmates, like try to figure out
There
how to
could be a
navigate
lot
that.
more guidance on the whole process. And I think that's fundamentally one of the things that's broken with the system that we're really trying to help is creating a much more personalized process for students and also ensuring that they can apply at any point in their journey. We have students who are applying even before getting accepted into a school that are already brought into our community and are on our radar, and we'll help them think through based on what geography and what types of schools, what are the best options for them. We have students who are coming in who are not within 2 years of graduation that can do our pre-qual program, which means we can guarantee funding for them for the following year. And then, of course, the vast majority of students have been accepted to school or are already currently enrolled in school, and they'll apply on our website. It takes less than a minute to do the initial application. It's very quick. The whole process between applying and getting your pricing and getting the contract can be done in just a couple of days. So it's very quick for the student as long as the student moves fast through the process with us. And we have a whole customer support team that's just ready to get on a phone call and talk live with students about all of their options. It doesn't even just have to be the stride income share agreement, but we can walk through their federal options, their private loan options, making sure that they're taking scholarships and grants first, and really just basically trying to be as involved as the student wants us to be with them.
That's awesome. So really, I mean, it sounds like the first step is kind of connecting and asking questions and looking at everybody's situation differently, because
Absolutely.
everyone's situation is so different. I went to a public school, so my loans were not nearly what some people's are, thankfully.
Yeah.
Which I,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But not everyone, I mean, not even every state offers that, and then there's less spots. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But okay, so is it possible to give an example of like what this would look like?
Of course. Yeah. So essentially, the way an income share agreement is structured is, as I mentioned, it's meant to be much more simple than a loan structure that has various components. Ours is just really, two components: what's the percentage of income and over how long. So the traditional stride ISA is, as I mentioned, a single-digit percentage of income. So let's illustratively say it's 5% of your income over 5 years, so 6 to 20 months. And in order to build in student protections, we also have a few features to really help students make sure that they don't have to pay during the tougher times of their life. I mean, when we look at this current market environment, there's so much uncertainty in the job market and in what the future looks like. And so we really want to be supportive in the way we structure the product. So there's also a minimum income threshold. What that really means is when you earn less than a certain amount of money, let's say it's $40,000, you don't pay a cent. That's really just a protection to make sure that if you're furloughed or if you get sick or you have a tough time, you're just safe, you're covered. And there's no additional expenses during that time either. Also, there's a cap. There's kind of the maximum you will ever pay. Again, a student protection to make sure students know that this product is always affordable and that, they'll never pay more than a certain amount. So that's really the key structure of an income share agreement. Does that make sense, or happy to go into
No, I
more
think
detail?
that makes sense. I have some questions, I guess, along the lines of people being qualified, and people love to throw these financial questions at me, and I am very quick to tell them I am like not an
Yeah,
expert in any of this and point them in the right direction. But as far as someone being qualified to
yeah,
receive this type of funding, like what are the
yeah.
checklists that they have to fulfill, I guess?
Yeah, totally. Great question. So the key criteria are we look for students who are U.S. citizens or green card holders. Second is students within 2 years of graduation. Again, it doesn't matter if it's a second bachelor's, a first bachelor's, a graduate degree, which most PAs obviously are master's degrees. So that's the second thing, is within 2 years of graduation. Third is just making sure that you don't have any adverse credit history. We don't have FICO cutoff scores, but we definitely will look at credit reports and just make sure that you don't have derogatories or any issues there. And then beyond that, it's fairly standard. We work with just about every school in the U.S. We don't currently work with community colleges. We're looking at expanding there, but just about any traditional, school that you can think of in the U.S. we'll work with, and any of these, STEM or healthcare programs. So
Okay, well, you answered two of my questions about international students and bad credit. So that was coming next. Um, so is there this is when I post on Instagram a question I got, is there a limit on the amount that can be borrowed?
so currently we fund up to $25,000 per year per student. Depending on your program length, let's say it's a 2-year program, you can borrow up to $50,000 via Stride. And we'll also help you work through if you have a higher need than that. We have different partners, so we can also help you figure out the rest of your funding on top of that.
Okay, so that was, yeah, my question, because I thought there was some limit in there. And I mean, PA school is ridiculously expensive.
Definitely, we know.
Yeah. So could somebody do, like, if they did Stride funding, would they do like a private loan, or could they still do
Yeah.
federal loans, or could they not?
No, of course. You can.
Okay.
Many students will take out part of their total funding amount with a federal loan and part of it with Stride. And the benefit is with that, they'll get a lot of the benefits you get through federal options and some of the lower cost features there. And then with Stride, of course, they'll get kind of that flexibility and a lot of the career support that we've baked in. So it's a good combination, actually. And we see the same
Gotcha.
with private loans. There are students who will do partly a Stride ISA and partly a private loan.
Okay.
And some will just fund themselves with Stride. So we've seen it across the map, and there's no one size fits all solution, right? It's whatever's best for the student.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and that makes sense. So, like, with my situation, I was able, thankfully, with my parents' help, to just use like the straight federal loans and not have to do anything else. So a lot of my classmates did Grad Plus or had to look into private loans, and so like I don't even, I guess, when I was in school in 2012 to 2014, this wasn't an option, and so it never came, like everyone just did the same thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but because it just didn't cover everything.
yes, totally. And I think a lot of times when students look at, you know, um, just different loan options, one of the things you realize is oftentimes your undergrad loans are already accruing interest when you go back to school. And sometimes students are just looking for solutions that aren't another fixed obligation, right? An income share agreement inherently, fluctuates with your earnings. And so it's a bit more flexible. But for a lot of students, the federal options are great. And we are very transparent with our students, where we walk through the total costs, across federal options, private options, income share agreement options. And sometimes we'll say this is a good option for you, and for some students we'll say actually, another is better, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
We're in the business of helping students, and that's really the goal here.
Yeah,
So
need to look at options. So, and like ideally, just to make sure I have this clear, like the time someone would apply for this or kind of get started would be like before they start school, or like even possibly in school, but not afterwards,
yeah,
right?
exactly right. The ideal time for a student to start it is, we have a ton of students who are already enrolled in school, and let's say they're looking for funding for their last year or their last semester. They should absolutely apply. a lot of students are incoming. They've already been accepted and they're enrolling in a program, and then they're looking for funding for their first year. That's also a great time. If a student is any earlier in the process, it never hurts to apply. But just realize if they haven't already selected a school, or if they are, over 2 years away from graduating, then they would be a better fit for our pre-qual program, our pre-qualification program, which is basically a contract for a future ISA. But for the most part, it's students who are already currently enrolled or are incoming.
About to start. Okay, cool. So like after the fact, once you're back, once you're out of school, is there a grace period like with federal
Yes,
loans?
yes, absolutely. So we have a few months that is a grace period for all students where the income share agreement does not start, and students really have that time to just find the right job for them.
Perfect. Okay. And then, so what happens if somebody like changes jobs?
Yeah, so that's totally
Just like
fine.
adjust?
Yes, it just adjusts exactly. So it's not, the whole goal of an ISA is we change as your life changes, and if you at any point change your career, that's totally fine. It's still the same percentage of income over the same amount of time, and that's it. So
Gotcha. Okay. And then, like, I have to ask this question, even though nobody likes to think about this, but let's say somebody like signs up and then they maybe don't graduate.
yeah,
It happens. I know with like federal loans that can be really bad, or like it's really bad with like the
yes,
health scholarship thing.
yes.
But what like I don't know what happens. So
So with our product, the way it's structured is, again, we tried to aim for simplicity. So the contract does not change, even though if you don't graduate, the likelihood is you probably will earn, you know, probably significantly less. It's the same contract. So if you, let's say, owed 5% of your income over 60 payment months, so 5 years, you'll still owe that same amount, regardless of if you don't end up being a PA and you go somewhere else. With that said, we really, of course, want to, encourage and look for students that we think have a high propensity of graduation. And we also invest a lot in career support tools to help students from the second that they join Stride. So we have, I'll walk you through some of
yeah,
the
let's
key.
talk about some of like what
Yeah,
y'all like what that support looks like
of course,
that
of course.
people can utilize.
So I think one of the nice things about us focusing, so much on specific professions, so really, healthcare professions in this case, is we can build really personalized, tailored tools to help students throughout their entire school and career journey. So the second a student signs up with Stride, they're brought into the Stride community, and we have weekly content that we give them. So this is, we will write blogs weekly that help students think through how to save while they're in school, personalized ways to prep, exam tips, etc. We have reading materials, words of wisdom, peer-to-peer networks, etc. That's from the day that they join. In addition to that, as they're coming closer to graduation, we have different career tools. So we have specific templates and cover letter and resume support that we provide for each student. We had, a number of our students just joined really great hospitals, and we really helped them through that process of recruiting. We also are right now working on placement partnerships with larger hospital systems and different companies to really help place students into high quality jobs. And we're also working on large discounts and sometimes fully subsidized materials to help students with exam prep. So let's say you're a nurse with your NCLEX exam, as well as interview prep materials and tutoring and exam prep materials more broadly. The nice thing about all of this is it's all free, and it's all just part of the Stride mission. So this really just comes as part of the package of being part of our community.
That's really cool. Okay, so that I mean that I will tell you that's not something you're gonna get with a federal loan, where I feel like that process is just very confusing from start to finish. So yeah, lots of googling and mixed
Yeah,
answers was
yeah,
basically what I got.
yeah, we're trying to really keep it, easy for the student, because trust me, I know students going back to school already have enough on their plate, and the last thing they need to stress about is the financing piece. And so, totally.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Are there weird question. Are there stipulations on what the money that comes from Stride can be used on?
So it's the same as any other loan.
Okay.
So we certify and disperse with the school. So absolutely anything the school can certify for, that can be books, that can be housing, that can be, your tuition, etc. Stride can be used toward.
Okay.
nearly identical to any other loan product.
Just just from a different source. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like we've covered anything. I mean, are there any other kind of like pros, cons, like just
Yeah,
anything that people need to,
to think through. Yeah,
yeah,
so I'd say honestly, I think at the end of the day, our goal is to really just change the whole paradigm of how you think about education funding. Our whole inspiration was realizing that it doesn't make sense to have loan providers that force students to pay the same amount regardless of what's happening in their life or in the world, or regardless of the outcome of their educational pursuits. And so like really a call to action to all students watching this to tell your friends about this option. I think awareness is the biggest issue with an income share agreement. The second the student knows what an ISA is, understands what an ISA is, immediately students prefer this product over loan products, nearly all of the time. But the biggest issue is students just not knowing that this is available because it's a newer product, just like we talked about. The other thing is, as we think about building our community and our career resources, we're always asking students, what else could we add to the mix? And what else do you really wish you had support in? So beyond just your funding needs, if you have ideas, I'm really open to hearing, each and every one of them. And we want to make this a really special experience. So,
oh, that's great. Yeah, that's funny that you say that because that's how a lot of people describe the PA profession is people just don't know about it. And,
exactly.
once they find out, they think it's great. So,
Kind of an awesome field, totally. And so, yeah, and beyond that, I mean, look, it's, as I said, it only takes a minute to do the first part of the application. It's super quick. And I think you'll share this, Savannah, but it's just, stridefunding.com.
Yeah, that was my next question, and where we find y'all. So I'll put a link in the description. And then I think y'all are on Instagram too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stride funding. Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, whatever students have. And again, thank you so much for just being such an amazing supporter. And, I'm really excited to hopefully help many of your students as they think through their own educational journey. So
yeah, I like knowing all the options and sharing them. So I've appreciated y'all's partnership too.
Of course, this has been wonderful. Well, thank you.